Friends, cement industry watchers and readers of Indian Cement Review. Today, on 22nd May, uh, when we as a country is expectantly looking at some kind of progress from the lockdown that we are in, and some progressive progress is happening, of course. We have the pleasure of hosting Mr. Nitin Vyas. Mr. Nitin Vyas is a good friend of mine, but that apart, what should be more important for you guys is that he's a very important stakeholder for our cement industry. He is the CEO and MD of Beumer, which is a really high technology German company with well-established products, with leading position in the market in some of these products. Nitin, on top of all that, has the distinction of having uh, operated from markets outside of India like Singapore, etc., and therefore holds a good amount of experience from the Southeast Asian markets. And Beumer also has probably has operations in China, and so therefore this company has good connect with the Chinese market as well. Uh, I would like to add that Nitin has had the singular credit to himself of having participated, engineered, whatever I may call it, the acquisition of Nexco by Beumer in India, and also having not just conceptualized the acquisition, but also consummating and actualizing that acquisition and bringing the benefits of that acquisition to fruit, because it has added some well-needed product lines to Beumer's Indian portfolio. I guess that introduction is okay, Nitin. I mean, you would like to add anything? Anything I've missed?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for so kind words. I'm not sure if I'm worthy of those words, but coming out of your mouth, it means a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be of some kind of. I'm happy to bring some kind of meaning to your profile for our audience. So we'll get back to the interview quickly, and this rather than calling it an interview, let's call it a discussion on the cement industry in India and nearabouts. The pandemic and its disruption and the lockdown has been beaten to death in almost all discussions around us. I don't want to talk about that anymore. But what should be interesting is that there was in the Indian market some relaxation from 20th April, and some more relaxations have come thereafter, and probably some more relaxations are expected. So the relaxations in operations are coming to different extents in different regions and for different sectors as well. Uh, you know, some sectors are not able to operate even now, and some sectors are able to operate. So given that you are an industry, capital goods industry for the cement sector, which is a kind of antenna for the cement demand in the country, because you get the first murmurs of cement demand rising, like that railway train coming on the track, and you have your ears on the track to get that long distance signal. So tell our people, tell our friends about how have you started operating your plants, what precautions you have taken, and what do you see in the near future in terms of operations of your plant and the market.
So I'll go back a bit before the lockdown. 1 week before the lockdown, we had little sense that things are not shaping up good in the pandemic situation, and we need to be little careful about working. And we were not anxious, but we were cautious at that time. 1 week earlier already from the lockdown, and we started creating work from home teams, and we started working with around 60% manpower a week before already. So with 60% manpower, we had some framework already established how to work from home. And then we started working. We first 1 week was a little slow. Second week of the lockdown, what we could see that individual contributors' productivity had increased, whereas the coordinating managers, their productivity had reduced, which was quite obvious. And we could sense that there could be a possibility for opening the factory. So on 19th of April, we got approval to start our factory with some around 30% manpower. And prior to putting an application, we created a lot of SOPs. We had to organize a lot of training manuals, reorganize the shop floor where people can work, what people can work. With that, we spent, after getting the permission, 1.5 day in training the people, training the security, training the health and safety people, and the factory workers. And effectively on 21st, second half, we were able to start the production in some manner. And subsequently, we were allowed to add second shift, and the productivity improved. We had around then net effective around 60 to 70% manpower in the factory already prior to ending April. We could not dispatch anything in April, so April was a complete washed out blank month. Uh, Starting 4th of May, we also got permission to run our office, but we had a 50% uh, manpower approval. But we were a little careful that we started slowly. We wanted only on each of the floor around 35% of people, with not affecting the customer project. So we created some kind of teams which are uh, floor wise, not increasing the number of people, as well as fulfilling a specific project, and created a roster so that people can, some days some people are coming, others other days some other coming. And we had to reorganize and create a lot of awareness about what are the do's and don'ts in the new uh, COVID era, because this pandemic or this disease is not going to go away in 1 month, 6 months. It's going to stay here with us for long. And for me, it was important that to convince my colleagues to come out. It was more important to have productivity, but to overcome the fear of coming out. And that was the objective initially when we pushed people that you should come out. We have to leave the fear away. We have to find ways of mask, hand sanitizing, and all those things to come out of the fear. The moment we saw within a week people were coming out of the fear, we saw the productivity coming back in office. And we have, in the month of May, we have started the dispatches. We further got increased to 75% manpower, uh, and we are on the factory side, on the shop floor. We still have a higher manpower now. 100 odd people are working, but in office, even though we have a higher permission, we are still keeping around 35% on each floor people. So what we have done, whoever is having a manager's cabin, they are all coming, but whoever are sitting in the cubicles, there we are trying to ration the number of people who are coming. And I think this is going to be the way of life, way of work life. We have to be adaptable, flexible in this time. And I think this disease has taught us to be more adaptable than ever, adapting not only to the way of working, but adapting to the market, because markets are going to change. Going forward, I believe more relaxations will be there with respect to movement of people from one state to another. That might help in getting the labor into the right places. Uh, and people who have been stuck in some states, they can also come back. So that will help further relaxations that we are expecting and will happen. And we know by next week the airlines will start, the domestic side, the aviation will start. So we'll see more relaxation in movement of people, movement of goods. Already the relaxations were there during the lockdown period. We were able to clear around 30 40 feet containers which were from overseas, brought them during the lockdown either to our factory or to different project sites. So it was slow during the lockdown, but it was still moving. Now it is better, but it is not up to the normal stage which we were used to. But things are moving. We are able to get the raw material. Our sub suppliers have started supplying, so things are getting back to normal. But we need to be careful, watchful, continuously do the risk assessment. Uh, with respect to the market, you asked, market uh, markets are little bit. I think the demand is not there, and if demand is not there, supply will be an issue. Fortunately, we had some good order backlog, so those things were still under production and working. We have workload in our for our engineers, for our shop floor for some time, but there are some jobs which are some projects which are getting on hold or which were put on hold. Now slowly what we are seeing, those projects which were under force majeure, under hold, they are getting revoked. Wherever force majeures were invoked, those are slowly getting revoked. Some places the slowdown is happening in terms of the execution of the project. Some places it's business as normal. So it's a mixed bag of thing, and we need to be very closely watching what different customer, what different supplier is doing at this point in time, and accordingly and adapt our business to fulfill that, because this is affecting, this pandemic has affected every single person, every single business. Some business are pretty bad, some business see a opportunity, but uh, it's a mixed bag, so you don't have one solution for everything. uh, since we work from financial year January to December, our first quarter January to March was fairly good, but going forward I see the second quarter of this calendar year or third quarter of this calendar year, or as per Indian financial year, first and second quarter will be more or less washed out. This is what, based on the market, what we feel.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Wonderful. That was a very nice way to explain things regarding operations as well as a bit about the market. Staying with the market issues for a moment, I will like to take the discussion towards products and technology a little bit and ask you something that's very interesting to me, because in all this and in my discussion with other cement leaders like yourselves, I found that one of the areas of concern in social distancing in plant operations would be the crowded areas and labor intensive spaces of uh, truck loading and cement bagging and wagon loading. And it came to my mind that possibly for those people who are into bagging automation and loading automation, perhaps this could be an opportunity if the cement companies are looking to decongest these areas and automate. There has been in the past some inhibitions in doing this automation. I remember that this doesn't work, that doesn't work, and stuff like that. So, and it also occurred to me that there may be some products in that line in Beumer's portfolio. So, can you tell us something about the prospects?
Yeah, definitely, sir. Where we are seeing that in the cement industry, what the pundits are forecasting, some of the rating agencies are also forecasting that uh, there will be around 15% fall in the demand of cement going forward, and the capacity utilization will go down to 60%, where earlier also it was not very high, it was somewhere in 70s. Uh, this will put pressure on the cement producers on the cost side. It- when we look at the pie of the cost of the cement industry, and majority of the cost is where a lot of optimization has been done is on the process side, on the fuel side. Uh, However, there is one piece of the pie in the cement producer whereas not much has been done in the cost optimization, which is in the packing area, is packing loading area, and then the logistics distribution part. So logistics, transportation, logistics, as well as packing. If I see OPC and PPC, it is ranging somewhere between 27 to 31% of the total cost pie. So this we see it's a silver lining for businesses or companies like Beumer, where we can automate this part and can add value to our customer by putting the right products where the automation can be done in the tagging area, in loading area, and also further going forward, we can work towards with customer in identifying the logistics, how we can help in distribution and warehousing and distribution, because warehousing and distribution automation is kind of missing in the Indian cement side. We are online packing and then sending it directly to the dealers or to the market. Uh, and we are dependent on when the trucks are available. We can bring the trucks, we can pack, otherwise the packing machines are idle. So asset utilization is not highest. By automating, we can do the asset utilization to much higher value and bring the efficiencies in and reduce the total production hours, or increase the output from the same place. And there we can help, and we have products in the bagging area, in automatic bag placement, in automatic loading. This can further help the customers not only to reduce the dependency on the workers which are seasonal, which are not available, and the wages are unpredictable as the government keeps changing the wages. Uh, and at the second time, we will bring some sustainability part, enabling the health of the people and the environment with less dust and all those things. But I always say that there is also one silver lining when many times we misread and misrepresent, is that when we bring automation, we are going to take away the jobs of people and people are going to lose jobs. I have a different view that if you bring automation, you will reduce the number of people working, but you will bring the skill set of the humankind and the mankind a notch above. You might not need the unskilled labor, but you will need skilled people. So from your ROI models, remove the labor portion out. Try to add in the efficiencies and productivity and all those, and uh, predictability, uh, pelfrage, all those things you can get away. And I think this is a time where the capacity utilizations, as predicted, will go down by 60, go down to 60%, and the demand uh, average will be reduced by 15%. And in some states, it might be demand might go down by 30%. This is a good opportunity for cement producers to bring the automation in a more organized and a structured manner into the industry, particularly in packing, loading, palletizing, warehousing, and distribution. So overall logistics. So if I further add, cement is a low value, high volume commodity. And in this, we have in India, overall logistics cost is around 14% to 15%, whereas cement, being a low value commodity, has 25% logistics cost. And it's a big opportunity to bring it down, but we have to do in a more structured and organized manner, and not buy just the machine, but with the machine, try to see what infrastructure is required. We are willing to change that infrastructure or not. And also, in addition to changing the infrastructure, are we willing to change our processes, SOPs? So I would say this is a silver lining and quite big opportunity for us to develop or to work with cement producers to bring automation, not only on bagging and loading, but also on the long distance conveying from mines to plant. That's also a possibility where a lot of trucking is being done. We can have 4, 5, 6 kilometers of conveyors going. That's what I would say in terms of technology, what can be done, and it's a big opportunity for cement industry right now to optimize.
Yeah, I was expecting that such an opportunity will be there, and it will be pursued also. Every opportunity has a timeliness, and I think the automation of bagging plants and loading areas, I think their time has now come. I particularly liked your point, your view about automation and how it improves the skill of although it reduces the number of employees, the number of workmen, but it improves the skill, and thereby I get a sense that it also improves the quality of life, or also improves the well-being of those individuals. So that's the positive side of automation, other than looking at just the financials and the quality, etc., and productivity. We can talk a little bit about cash flows, because cash flows are the flavor of the season, and people are interested to know how different industries, different sectors are managing uh, their cash flow situations in these uncertain times. Uh, and we have some views from the cement industry, how they are doing it, but from the capital goods sector, where I guess the cash flow situations will be more uh, under pressure, because customers will, first thing customers will do will turn to so-called large equipment suppliers and project vendors and say that, here, give me 180 days instead of 90 days, which you had earlier promised me. That is, with that kind of situation, I don't know whether that kind of situation is prevailing today. But overall, how are you handling cash flow challenges and planning for the immediate future? And at the same time, how are you managing your cash flow supports to the smaller vendors, your supply chain?
So, as you rightly said, we are capital goods project-based company, and our payments are milestone-based payments. We don't get payment just by supplying one piece of equipment. It has linked with multiple milestones. And what we are seeing right now in the market, I'll talk about one stakeholder of ours, which is the customer. There is, what we are seeing is a different behavior from customer to customer. There are some which are respecting very fairly whatever has been agreed, and in a very humane manner, discussing, talking, and dealing in that manner. There are certain which are possibly having certain pressures, certain internal pressures. They are demanding to have certain credit extension of credit periods, and there are certain which are who are requesting. So there are some who are going as normal, there are some who are requesting, and there are some which are demanding. So it's a mixed bag again, the behavior, and it's different customers, different behavior. Possibly they have their own reasons for that behavior, and we are dealing and reacting to each one in that different manner. So there is different. So our request to our customers is pretty simple, that we have three places to go for getting the cash. One is our customer, second is banks, third is government. So if my customer himself is asking that he can't do, I can go to my banks, and banks are going to charge the things, and that's going to add a cost. Somebody has to pay the cost. Third, government. So government, I don't have any possibility of getting something from government. So we are putting our case accordingly and managing it. To the suppliers, we are to our regular, very small suppliers, we are ensuring that they are paid uh, sufficient amount so that they do not go out of the business. It's a responsibility of a customer towards its supplier. So it's our responsibility towards our supplier that they don't go out of business because of us. And because whenever normalcy comes, I would need my suppliers more than they need me, because I'll have to fulfill with the help of them. So I need to ensure that they are paid and they are well taken care of. There are certain suppliers which are bigger like us. There we are requesting if we can get some uh, delay, but we have not yet gone to a stage to any supplier where we are asking for delays and all. We are paying to all. We are ensuring that the payments to our workers, our employees who are our first priority, is happening completely on 30th of the month or first of every month. Also, mind you, also we also had our appraisal cycles finished, so bonuses had to be paid. Did not cut any bonuses. Paid bonuses to every single employee of ours. We informed in a town hall that we are paying during the lockdown. The moment lockdown is lifting, we are paying the bonuses. We are giving the increments. So we are trying to keep very sane towards our employees, because and cash management, your first part of the question was cash management for me. I always compare cash with the oxygen. So cash is like oxygen, and we humans as a company. So my own accruals, my own cash is like my lungs. If my lungs are fit, I can walk further. And the oxygen, if I need to have oxygen cylinders to climb up the mountain, that's where the challenge becomes, and that's where it's a cycle where we can get. So what we have, the moment this thing started, we started reviewing, monitoring, and analyzing the cash situation, not on quarterly or half yearly basis, but not even on monthly basis, on weekly basis. So we have a 16-week rolling cash flow plans, and end of year, what are the cash flow plans, and it's a dynamic. So every single day there is a change, there is something new. So it's a continuous work of cash flow management, 16 weeks rolling forecast, and end of the year total, and month on month and week on week it keeps on changing. And we have a very close watch on that. And as I said, the fitter you are, you will survive. It's a survival of the fittest. If your debts are high, it will be difficult for you to survive in this market. And that is your oxygen cylinders. And if your lungs are good, uh, you can climb up the Everest also.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think basically, uh, in summary, you are trying to do a tightrope walk between supporting your supply chain and your smaller vendors and servicing your customers' reasonable and unreasonable requests about credit periods, and trying to make sure that you don't have to carry an oxygen cylinder while doing that. But that will be very tough. So I'm sure you will succeed. There are times which are good and there are times which are bad, and these are unprecedented times. I want to now ask you something which probably not many people who are completely rooted in India and are not knowledgeable about China, they will not be able to respond, but you will be able to respond to this and give us some sense. There has been a lot of hoopla uh, about global manufacturing, supply chains, refashioning their strategy about setting up alternates to China, which is being called China plus one strategy in manufacturing supply chain. And not just about cement capital goods, but about general manufacturing. With your knowledge of China and with your knowledge of Southeast Asia, your company's presence in China, uh, can you give an idea how will this pan out in favor of India, if at all there is a movement that manufacturing facilities will be set up beyond China in other competitive countries? Will it come to India? Will it come to other countries in Southeast Asia? What's your idea?
So, as you said, it is more likely, and it is everybody is talking, and I think surely working also. China plus one strategy of supply chain, alternate to China, or in addition to China, a supply line. Um, Now, when this China plus one happens, uh, in my sense, it is not going to happen in immediate term by most of the companies. may not be in very short term, also medium term, yes, it can happen, uh, particularly for manufacturing industry. Um, but will it, India will benefit from that? I'm not very highly optimist. Something will surely come. But quite a lot, as we hear also with the news, that quite a bit is also moving towards Vietnam, though it's a communist country, but the ease of doing business in real sense on the ground seems to be much better in Vietnam as compared to our country. Because I think still to set up a factory and set up a business, it still takes a lot of time in India, uh, and on top of it, the labor laws, labor norms, what we have are pretty stringent, which are not helping the industry much. So unless there is much more on a phenomenal supersonic speed is done on in the real sense and ease of doing business where the industry is getting benefit and some structural labor reforms are done, I doubt that people will be rushing towards India. There is also a second underlying point which I believe, which sometimes deterres us, is that other than the automotive industry got developed in a very structured and organized manner, where the automotive people came to India to set up their shop, but to serve the Indian consumer market. And while doing that, they developed the ancillaries and manufacturing of uh, the parts, and which became a very high quality, high performance, high productivity, and really good value, and were able to export and became a very organized structure industry, which did not happen for other manufacturing industry. Because our first step has to be followed like automotive industry, that we are setting up a shop here for the consumers in India. And if we are able to manage the quality which is required for the international market, we will automatically get a benefit out of that. I think China, what they did uh, after financial crisis or prior to that, they brought the industry into China to serve China, and to feed the consumers, 1.5 billion consumers. And there they developed. So in China today, the supplier network is of very high quality standard. Basically, you can buy any quality from China. Like they say, more you put sugar, the sweeter it is. So as you pay, you can get a quality in China. So you can get the best quality and whatever quality you want. So the tooling industry, the supplier network, it became really good in China. To replicate that in India for the manufacturing industry, we need to target first the Indian consumer, and that's, I believe it's still a possibility, because the per capita consumption in India is still very low. There is a huge possibility to serve the Indian consumer. So
Yes.
if we are thinking that manufacturing will come to India for exports, I'm not very sure. But if we believe that manufacturing has to come in India to serve the Indian consumers, it will happen. Uh, there are also, we will come to know when what happens, what are the new geopolitical alignments which are happening on daily basis, what happens with the US elections end of the year, and what is the new tie-up happens between US and India, maybe US, Japan, Korea, and India, and how does China play in that? Does China bring India together? So how these new geopolitical alignments are happening, that will also define quite a lot what eventually will happen. But it's an opportunity. There is a sentiment to have an alternate to China, and this sentiment we need to capitalize as a nation. But we need to be mindful that we need to work towards the skill development and quality management. Now, very high quality, consistent quality, if we are able to do, yes, we can do the benefit. Let's focus for Indian consumers as the first priority, and then export. Then if we put these cards in the right sequence, I think we'll win the game. Or else it will be again a missed opportunity.
Yes. I noted that. I think I have taken away 2 points from what you said just now. and like to summarize that for everyone else. One point is that yes, there is a possibility of people setting up alternate manufacturing facilities outside China for obvious reasons, but it is not a axiomatic and or automatic thing that these will come to India. We will have to get our act right, and we'll have to compete with other countries which are providing uh, good or better ways of doing business. That's one. So we have an opportunity, but we need to compete for it. The second takeaway for me is that make for India, because you talked about the domestic market and servicing the domestic market. Make for India is probably a more feasible and more possible variant of Make in India, which is probably a subset of Make in India, because Make in India includes Make for India and Make for others and you know, the whole range. So these are two interesting points that I take away, and I think they are very much valid. And thank you for that thoughtful contribution of yours in this discussion. Uh, I think we have come to the more or less at the end of our half an hour slot and all that. But before I get to the point where I have to profusely thank you for your presence here and all that, I want to ask you, which is what I always do, in case I have missed something very important, which is of interest today, or if I have omitted uh, some item to ask you, which is good for the cement sector, or if you have a general message for as a stakeholder of the cement industry for all the other stakeholders, would you like to add something?
Uh, Thank you very much for sir, this opportunity and talking on the industry and in journal also. I think we covered all the points, but I would like to, in journal, just put it. These are the times which make people do things which one should not do, because people world will remember you what you did during the crisis, as they say. So it's important what we do is fair in during this time. Do not do something when the times are normal. We are judged by how we behave. And I would like to say that more than intelligence during this time, a wisdom is required. It's more of wisdom than intelligence is required, and with extreme patience and humility. They are able to exhibit wisdom with extreme patience and humility and treat all of us stakeholders fairly and honestly. I think we will tide through this crisis, because every single one on the globe has been affected by this directly or indirectly. So it's very important for us to stay sane, stay humble, and treat everyone with fairness. That will be all. And it's once again pleasure talking to you, Mr. Banerjee. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
That was great. That last message of yours. It's like sage advice. It's like saying it's not dog eat dog, but it's man helps man situation. That's what this time calls for. Uh, it's not a time for cold competition, but it's a time for considerations and compassion. Uh, Thank you for that thought you are leaving us. And on top of that, we are extremely thankful to you for having spared this time for us and for our stakeholders in the cement sector. I think everyone will gain a little bit from what you said today, what we discussed today. And we look forward to having such interactions in future, subject to your convenience. Thank you.